Alright. Got a big package today. It's going to be the biggest for a while, it looks like. Let's see, let it go there. So let's... Oh, it fell out there. I'll go down and get it, and also pick up the piece of trash. Alright. Well, let's try and get through this. First we have Fist of the North Star, the legend of the true savior, legend of Kenshiro, which I don't think I have, but I'll be honest, I can't completely keep track of all of the Legend of the North Star stuff, I guess. Well, let's see. We do have English dub, Japanese sub, Region A, one movie on one disc. So I think this one is different than the other one, whose name it kinda seems to remind me of. Okay, just that image there. Just neat. Next up we have Boruto, and somewhere down here I'm pretty sure we have other Boruto. So we have DVD and Blu-ray versions. Blu-ray and Blu-ray versions? I could have sworn I ordered DVD and Blu-ray versions, so something's a little sussy there, but I guess I'll figure it out next week. It's not like there's anything else coming out next week. So we have Boruto, there's a Region A for 15 minutes. I mean, I expect it to somewhere say it's dubbed. English and Japanese too, there we go. I forget which set this is. It doesn't help that they stopped numbering them. I almost thought these were the same, but one's Dragon Ball Z and the other one's Naruto. And then Boruto. Okay. Set this aside for a little bit because we can see there's, well, disc 1, disc 2, and disc 3. I just closed it and I forgot to put this back. It almost doesn't matter, but you know, it's a thing to do, I suppose. Next up we have Futakoi, the complete TV series, and I'm pretty sure this will probably only be the first season. I want to take a look at it, but I guess it's been a long time since I've seen this. Let's see, what does the back say? Japanese with English subtitles only, 13 episodes, so only season 1. Okay, Region A. And I expected as much, because the second season of this Futakoi alternative is almost not a second season for this. For those of you that are unaware, this is basically, I remember it being a pretty straightforward harem anime, with its gimmick being that every member of the harem is actually a pair of twins, I guess. But Futakoi alternative, it's a bit of a different story. Now, I just mostly remember this one being a pretty generic harem rom-com. With just its interesting gimmick, I suppose. And maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but second season was like, oh, jeez. You could, like, watch the two openings and think they're two different anime. We've got Medabots. What does that say in the lower right corner? Spirit. The original Japanese language second series. I can't remember if I got the original Japanese language first series. Probably did. Not that I'm like guaranteed thorough or anything like that, but I don't know. different underneath the slipcover, which is good. We've got Region A, we've got Japanese with English subtitles. 39 episodes on one disc, because yeah, this was all on standard definition. Sounds about right. It doesn't strike me as a sort of show with like good quality upscales, I guess. And I think it was it looks like it could have been made around the time when everything was digitally done, so there's not even like much to get from the cells. Yeah, I guess we'll look at this. Bleach, 1,000-Year War. No, that's not 1,000-Year War. That's a 1,000-Year Blood War, which is different. And I believe this is an actual series and not a movie, which I thought it was a movie. I'm like, did I already get that movie? But I wasn't sure, and did some looking up, and it looked like the answer was no. Region A. Probably it just says somewhere in the back here. Stereo, audio, English, and Japanese. So it's got subtitles, got dub. I probably should have looked. This is just part 1, which is good to know. Actually, does it say anywhere on here how many episodes it has? 13 episodes. 2 Blu-ray discs. And here they get to advertise different stuff. So we've got Bleach. And we've got Jujutsu Kaisen. And we've got a Chainsaw Man. You know, a good reminder that Viz has those as well. Looks like a reversible cover. That's pretty cool. Now here I am being lazy and not actually reversing it, but you know. I guess it doesn't need to be. Now that said, these are not lining up and they're preventing it from closing correctly. So we'll do that real quick. Then take a quick look at this booklet. Just to kind of give a feel for what's in it. Looks like character art and stuff like that. Pretty good. And then last but not least, The Little Mermaid. This would be not the Disney version, of course, but the anime in Hans Christian Andersen's. All I have to do is get this started. She's not wearing that much. We've got English dub and Japanese with English subtitles. Region A. 1 movie on 1 disc. Well, there we go. Here's this week's physical anime collection update. Alright, real quickly, I did confirm. I did order that the DVD version of that Boruto set. They just sent me 2 Blu-ray versions for some reason. So, Amazon fucked that one up. Oh well. Let's see. A lot of new stuff started airing today. I thought I heard something settle and I don't know what it was. A lot of new anime started airing today for the new seasons. And unfortunately, a lot of it is kind of I'm curious about, but I don't have the energy to try to watch everything tonight. So I only limited myself to certain stuff. So I didn't watch the first episode of God's Game We Play or Train to the End of the World. I'll watch those later in this week, I guess. But I watched some other stuff, so let's go down the list of things I took a look at. First of all, excuse me. With my Friday friend, we finished Jujutsu Kaisen Season 1. Yeah, we watched episodes 21 through 24. And it's okay enough stuff, amusing enough stuff. I guess it was stuff. And the stuff at the very end was fine. It didn't strike me as, oh yeah, I wouldn't keep watching it because of that. I guess it's just when the series had a lull, that lull when it's like, yeah, there's all these people other than our main character who are fighting, and it's I don't know, it felt a little too shonen. It's not actually that bad, but again, it did leave that impression, and that was more what I remembered than what exactly happened in the last handful of episodes here, for example. But yeah, for the most part, it just means that we watch that. Chances are we're not going to start season 2 because we're going to want to watch Jujutsu Kaisen 0, since that came out between them, and I don't know how important it is to watch it, but I'm just guessing, well, this is when we're going to do it. So maybe that's what we're going to do this coming Friday. But then as the new stuff for this season comes out and he goes on a little break and stuff, we may end up getting a little distracted by new stuff that's airing, depending on what's dubbed, what's priority, etc. So speaking of that stuff, since the 3rd season of Konosuba is airing sometime this week, I decided to try to play a little catch-up with Konosuba and Explosion on This Wonderful World. Now granted, I still had the last 4 episodes to get, but I watched 2 of them, but there's a little bit of time. There's a bit of breathing room this week. And so I watched episodes 9 and 10, and it's not bad stuff. But there's something about it that's just like, these characters play off better in the main cast of characters. And I think the show kind of knows that, because you kind of have good elements from that sort of starting to peek their head as the show's catching up to closer to present time from a Konosuba perspective. At least, like, the events that are happening now happened at the same time as other Season 1 events, and it's okay. But for the most part, it's like, yeah, it's okay. It's just missing a lot. Hopefully Season 3, when it airs this season, will be good return to Konosuba fashion. And hopefully, the last 2 episodes of Konosuba and Explosion on This Wonderful World will be okay. Let me see. We had the last episode of Villainous Level 99. That would be episode 12. I think it wrapped things up fine. They could have more episodes, I think, but what they did wrap up was fine. Entertaining enough. Maybe not like the most strong thing, I guess, but for the most part, it did the things that I would have thought it would have needed 13 episodes to do really well, and in that regard, I wouldn't say it did it really well, but it did it okay enough. The fact that it covered them was good enough, and I thought it ended fine. I just don't remember anything about the ending. Just, okay, it did these story beats that I was thinking it would need to do, and hey, it did them. Good job, show. Gushing Over Magical Girls, episode 13. Pretty much just a swimsuit episode for it. There was that reveal, but that doesn't feel like a good crescendo series in. It's a nice thing to reveal, but I don't know. I can't help but feel like this is a show that's supposed to be about our main character and what she goes through, and the crescendo didn't quite feel like that. The end of this core didn't feel like that this season. But, overall, it was okay. It had its neat moments. Classroom of the Elite, Season 3, Episode 13. I'm trying to remember everything that happened in this. We did get some more insight set up into where it's going. So it didn't quite end of season at Episode 12, even though it kind of gave an end of season's credits. But, what all happened? I guess some interesting insight into our main character, and certain things happening, I guess. Okay enough, I guess. Dr. Release, The Royal Lady with the Lamp, episode 12. I do believe that was the end of the series, and I'd say it ended okay. It set itself up for a really great ending, and I'd say it was only good, which isn't that bad, but, great to good is fine. Entertaining enough stuff. Overall, just a kind of nice series. Delicious in Dungeon, episode 13, which is good. So it looks like Netflix is continuing to come up with the episodes, because episode 13 does appear to be the start of the second core. Like, if episodes 11 and 12 were kind of the crescendo of the first core, 13 seems to be setting up okay, here's where it's going from there and why it's important. And they did say that, episode 14 is coming out later this week, so hopefully Netflix is continuing to release it and they're not going to pull in Uncle from Another World. I haven't watched a lot of series as they've aired from Netflix, but the fact that the other one had such an issue, I guess, just has me worried. But hoping for the best. I guess there wasn't much in the way of cooking this episode, but it's kind of like there's important stuff being set up. They've got their gimmick, and hopefully they're going to still do more important stuff. But I guess we're going to have to see where it's going to go from here. It's interesting. The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic, episode 13, I thought was actually a fun ending to the series. So, like, episode 12 I mentioned it was pretty impactful, but I forgot that the way the episode ended would have been a really weird way to end the series, and why episode 13 was a much better setup. And in this case, I would say that episode 13 felt like it was the fun romp. I was kind of hoping it would maybe have been earlier to this point, but that just means that, okay, it spent season 1 setting that up, and I guess I can look forward to season 2 if that ever comes out. Hopefully it does. The Weakest Tamer began a journey to pick up trash, episode 12. I think this might have been an end of the series. It did seem to wrap things up. And overall, I'd say it did more than I thought it would, but it did almost as much as I would have hoped it would, so to speak. Now, again, we'll have to see. The series continues sometime in the future. If our main characters they spend more and more time at each place, the next time they're going to be there for an entire season. Well, I guess we'll have to see, but otherwise it ended pretty nice. Solo Leveling, episode 12, wraps up this season. Okay enough stuff. I guess it's just still the problem of, like I think I was alluding to last time, that the action that was going on is fine in terms of, okay, you feel like our main character has stakes. The stakes don't feel imagined and made up, but there was still that feeling of they felt arbitrary, and this did not really change that. It did wrap it up, and that would be fine, with the main problem being that, okay, well, I guess I'm curious to see what the next episode does. It almost felt like this one was focusing... like that feeling when it keeps focusing on something else, where it's like, okay, that could be important, but that's not the material we want to see right now. Like, did we really need to see as much leading up to, okay, here's the S-Ranks getting ready to go back to that one island? No. This episode dedicated a little time to that, but the time dedicated to this episode mostly felt okay and not as much of a waste of time, because it did feel like it was setting up something really important. But, overall, it ended, and, I'm curious about Season 2. I'm just worried that it's going to be like Season 1, and that it might be more enjoyable watched when binge watched. And probably a lot of that is, while there's a direction for a main character, it feels like the show tends to be pretty arbitrary for certain things, and it's not immediately obvious why those arbitrary things should matter to us. It's a little more flashy, but again, it's not completely pointless. Anyways, so I don't think my opinion on the show's changed radically much with the ending, but I don't think any of us were expecting it to. So here's the first new series. Actually, why don't I talk about Tsukimichi Moonlit Fantasy Season 2, Episode 13. I have 13 on here. I think that's right. It's whatever the latest one is, and I think it was okay, entertaining enough. The show feels like it's in a bit of a meandering phase, so to speak. Like, it keeps setting up things that are exciting, and maybe there's little brief moments of it, but I don't know. I guess I sort of feel like we're waiting for something big to happen, and it's taking a while for Season 2 to get there. Not that it's unentertaining along the way, but I guess it's missing out on certain important things, it feels like. But, you know, entertaining enough. We did get the new opening with the new core, and I don't remember the opening for Season 2 Core 1, but for Core 2, I'm actually kind of liking it. Not as much as, like, first season. First season is a very classic opening, but for... I think that this new opening is kind of nice. Alright, now let's talk about all the new stuff. With Studio Apartment, Good Lighting, Angel included, Episode 1, it seems okay. I don't think I'm going to continue watching it. I'll play that by ear. I might have, if I have enough time on the weekends, I might try to watch Episodes 2 and 3 to, you know, give it a chance to do something other than set up, oh, we're just kind of a basic rom-com slice of life sort of thing. Like, is there more to it? Because otherwise, you know, it seems very comparable to something like Oh My Goddess. Now, whether or not it's as good as Oh My Goddess is really hard to say, and kind of hard to directly compare because there's just so much Oh My Goddess that there's, you know, a couple different series implementations of it. But when I think of it and why that really stood out, you know, I liked the opening, of course, back then. It was a catchy tune. But the Oh My Goddess movie kind of felt like, oh yes, this is a show that is matured, I suppose. Rom-com matured. And this one does not feel like it's planning to go there, but, you know, we'll just have to see what it's planning to do with stuff. Because otherwise, you know, it's pretty basic. Oh yes, he's a pretty good guy. He has an angel starting to live with him. I think he's a little less impacted by it and a little more, okay, I've got to make this work, which is perfectly fine. I think it just mostly means that people who, like, have watched a lot of that stuff, if you're really, really into that sort of anime, you'll probably like it. But if you just sometimes watch it and you've seen a lot of it, it's hard to say if the show will have anything for us, which doesn't mean it's bad. It just means maybe it's not guaranteed great, but it's probably good. The banished former hero lives as he pleases. 2 episodes, episodes 1 and 2 aired, and I'd say it's okay. I think it's playing with some really neat ideas, but there's just something very off about the execution. Like, I guess the character personalities are definitely falling into archetypes, but it's not doing a good job of setting up what the specific rules of those are and what we should think. So, for example, our main character was a hero in his past life. He's been purposely doing nothing in his new life because he wants a life of peace this time. And all of that sounds good, but then it gets thrown away really quickly, you know, him hiding, oh, these are my hero powers from my previous life that I still know how to use. You know, he throws them away really quickly, and there's a bit of a disconnect there. It's not necessarily wrong, incorrect, or bad, but it's sort of like, you know, they didn't really establish ahead of time, okay, what does it mean? We just sort of guess, but I feel like it's a bad guess where ultimately it feels like it was arbitrarily done, not a plan. Okay, you know, he probably did this whenever his dad was organizing a hunting party or something like this, etc., etc. The way some of the characters interact, it feels a little, it's okay, that person seems to have a feeling that he's actually really powerful. Why did nobody else know this? I guess his parents were just kind of incompetent. Or maybe they just didn't know anybody really, really, really great. Which we think about, except that they're now being the most comic book villains ever. And, you know, it's a show that's kind of, I don't know, playing with ideas. Like, okay, that girl, okay, obviously she's the significant love interest. But the way she's kind of presented to the show is like, oh, apparently she was only born on this planet in order to be his love interest. It's maybe ever so slightly reminiscent of kind of the convenience of something like Studio Apartment, Good Lighting, Angel included, except because it's not directly in that category, it feels shoehorned in, I guess. And Angel included also, it doesn't just have that slight arbitrariness. Oh yes, this was just set up. You know, that one's about, okay, and now we're just going to have them interact, and the interactions, they're not, I wouldn't call them perfect for the premise of the show, but they're good enough that you can really enjoy them, whereas Banished Former Heroes just sort of, okay, yeah, we know he's a badass, and he knows he's a badass, and, oh, I guess everybody knows he's a badass, so it's not even giving us a good surprise factor of, oh, yes, he's doing a good job of surprising people by being the badass or something like that. Even though he is, but there's a weakness to it. You know, I kind of watched that one first today just because, well, I watched Tsukimichi first because, you know, I was catching up on that. But I watched, of the new stuff, Banished Former Hero first because it was the lowest rated. I'm like, yeah, I could see how they could easily flub the premise. Not necessarily bad, but it's only okay, I think. But the other ones, I have much better things to say about those. So there was, I was reincarnated as a 7th prince so I can take my time perfecting my magic abilities. My magical ability. That's episode 1. And that was a very fun first episode. I'm a bit worried that it was so much fun that the rest of the show might not be able to keep up with it. I'm trying to think what to describe. There's just subtle things about the way it worked. So, like, our main character, the way he died is like, oh, well, that seems kind of sad. Oh, that's a kind of interesting way to kind of see your own death. Okay, that's interesting. And then he wakes up again as a baby. But there's something about him waking up as a baby where plenty of people have done that in isekai before and in reincarnated shows. This one is him reincarnated in the same world, which is a very interesting change. But the thing, there was, like, that scene was still just very interesting in a couple of ways. There just was something fun about the way, okay, yes, he's surrounded by a bunch of maids, but something about the way the maids were acting just subtly tickled the neurons, I guess. Like, they weren't being sexy or anything like that, but it was just, I don't know, there was something about them that was just, like, refreshing, and that was kind of strange. And then he, you know, as a little kid, he's, you know, a little afraid, and he tries to fire off a fireball, and he does a really good job of it. It's just like, really good job may be an understatement. It's just like, okay, that's really fun. And then as the episode progresses, you know, they go to, I keep saying him because I'm pretty sure he's supposed to be a him, because he is the 7th prince, but for reasons I still don't entirely understand, they're drawing him as the most little girl looking boy that I've ever seen drawn in an anime. And I don't think he's trying to be, and I think he's supposed to be a him. And I'm trying to think of what all it is. It's a little bit of the hair, although that one's more reminiscent of that sword person from a couple of seasons ago in that one magical time loop anime. Or rather, magical sent back into the past anime. But, and for that one, I wouldn't have been surprised if they had revealed that that person who's a very effeminate boy was actually secretly a girl, because that's, you know, something they do. But this is the main character, so it'd be really weird to play that, and it's not just the hair. It's also the way the eyes are drawn. I think the way they do the eyelashes in particular makes it. The way they hold their legs feels like it's supposed to be ridiculously effeminate. And it's strange. It's just really strange. It stood out, but it's like, there's a part of my brain that's like, is this show going to say that he's been the prince the whole time and they're just calling that, but he's actually a princess, and that's weird? I don't know why it would do that, but I don't know. We'll just see how it goes, because that's just an interesting thing about it. The real draw is, oh my god, he's fucking scary in a very fun way. It was just a fun episode. If you haven't watched it, I'd say give it a try. It's unexpected. Now, whether or not it's going to continue being like that, it's hard to say. The first episode is bad insofar as it doesn't really give us a good idea of, okay, what is the rest of this series going to be like? Because, I don't know. But it was fun. Monster episode 1. Now, I was surprised that one was dubbed. It's nice to have something dubbed, but, oh, yeah, probably that means that I will time that one around when I'm doing something on a Monday that would be good if it did. Like if I was cooking dinner or something like that. Don't consider that. I mean, I did the same thing for Weakest Tamer. But yeah, for Remonster, was surprised that there was a dub there, and it was pretty entertaining. You may, if you hear the premise, you may worry, okay, what if it just ends up being another reincarnated as a slime? And it does not feel like it's doing anything resembling that same thing. Now, there's maybe some things you can say these are kind of comparable, but they don't feel the same. In particular, like Reincarnated Slime, he's, you know, both of them actually deal with our main character actually gaining abilities. But Reincarnated as a slime kind of, it's mostly about him staying as a slime, whereas this one, he's a goblin, but he's kind of growing because of autonomy, and then there's just this other stuff going on. And, you know, it was just kind of neat, and also kind of nodding a little bit to maybe some Goblin Slayer concepts, but, you know, it's not really about those concepts, so it just kind of nodded at them. It would have been interesting to see if they explored it, but I think that's one of the things that's making this neat is they've set up a lot of stuff that make you just kind of curious and want to see it get explored. So it was fun. It was a very fun first episode, I thought. We're going to have to see where it's planning to grow from there. And then, last but not least, we have the Spice and Wolf remake. Spice and Wolf Merchant Meets the Wise Wolf. Episode 1. And I wish I could say I could compare it to the first Spice and Wolf, but I only remember at a high level what happened in there. I don't remember the specifics of what happened such that I can compare this, which almost feels like Rurouni Kenshin all over again. But I think the main difference is Rurouni Kenshin, the remake, still felt like, you know, initially it felt, okay, yeah, cool, yeah, this show always begins really strong. But it definitely comes back to, alright, I'm feeling some of that, this was an anime made in the 90s sort of feel to it. And I think Spice and Wolf maybe doesn't quite have that feel. Like, this first episode does not feel like it's a remake of an episode from almost 20 years ago. I think somebody was saying that the first season was 2008, maybe? And I don't remember, but that feels like that could be right. And assuming that's right, then, you know, this doesn't really feel like it's a remake of a 2008 series. It just went nice. It felt like it had good pacing, like it wasn't saying, oh, everybody's already familiar with this, so we're doing this. It just felt like, no, we're creating this. Now, unfortunately, I can't compare it properly to the old series because I just don't remember the details of what happened on an episode per episode basis. Just that I really appreciate the fact that when Holo the Wise Wolf is doing stuff, you almost feel like you are dealing with an older entity, maybe one that isn't entirely human, so it doesn't entirely think and talk in human ways. And I just remember feeling the comparison back then to Twilight, which I haven't consumed a lot of Twilight stuff, but I do know it's like, you know, for all the things that might have made it popular, there were still elements of it that felt like you don't feel like you're talking to a 100-year-old vampire or something like that. But Holo, she feels like she holds herself the right way. She talks the right way. She doesn't need to do much talking because it's not I guess, a super advanced society or something like that. But, yeah. Anyways, fun stuff. Off to a good start, I would say. So that's what new stuff I've watched so far. I do plan to, again, watch other stuff. Like I mentioned before, God's Game We Play, I will probably try to check out the first episode of that. Train to the End of World, I'll probably try to check out the first episode of that, but I might watch those a day late or something like that, because my Tuesdays and Wednesdays are barren. And maybe I'll see something that airs those days and say, oh yeah, maybe I'll give this a shot, but probably not. Probably there's a real problem with the way things are bunched up this time, because there's also another isekai that starts next Monday. Or maybe not an isekai, it might be a fantasy. Whatever. Probably one of those. So that'll probably get added to my Monday lineup because I like my fantasy isekai junk food. I never said I was that I had a good taste in anime per se, but hopefully y'all just are interested in what I do say. So outside of that, is there anything else to chat about? I guess I'm aware of some of the upcoming changes for Lethal Company. Looking forward to seeing what those are like. Lethal Company continues to be fun, especially with mods just allowing you to kind of goof off. I'm not the kind of person that's big into mods that just like really, really change it, so I don't want us to add any, moons, new enemies, things like that. I'd be almost tempted to have Maxwell, the cat. But that's because cat, and not because of anything else. Excuse me. But basically, yeah, just stuff. Dead by Daylight. I guess the previous event finished. I thought it was a pretty well done, well run event. Good job, them. And yeah, and I guess they started another event for April Fool's Day, which is Oni is big and the survivors are tiny, and the Oni can smash the survivors if he manages to catch them. It's amusing. I'm not sure if I have the energy to try to do it. I guess we'll have to see tomorrow, but probably not. I think I'm okay. I don't think I need to do it because I don't think I'll get anything for doing it per se. So I'll just appreciate the fact that it's just a really fun thing that Behavior decided to do. All right. I think that wraps everything up. Hopefully, when I talk to you next week, it'll be after the solar eclipse. It's going to be, I think the rain is currently looking cloudy here, so probably we won't get to see it too well. But yeah, hopefully wherever y'all are, you get to appreciate it. Hopefully you get a nice clear day, or if you wanted a cloudy day, hopefully you're at a place with a cloudy day. But yeah, it's open. All right, y'all, have a nice week.